Yes, modern dating is in chaos, and yes, standing still is a very, very stupid strategy, because if you stand still, if you don't accept the chaos, if you don't say, okay, I understand that the terrain has shifted, I understand that things aren't how they were maybe 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago, and I understand that I'm going to have to show up differently, then you are going to get left behind, okay? Because this stuff is moving at an exponential rate. It's not moving at a slow, leisurely pace, right? We're not in some gentleman's club in Mayfair in the 19th century, all right? This is speeding up, okay? Life is speeding up. Look at the rise of technology over the last decade, okay? We have the social media apps, we've got the dating apps, which have just exploded, okay? Exploded in their impact, exploded in their use. Look at something like YouTube, how central YouTube has become to people's lives now, not just for little channels like mine, but you know, it's rivaling now the big TV networks, okay? That is something that probably we couldn't have predicted 20 odd years ago, right? The idea that people will be able to just create their own videos, create their own content and put them up, and that would in time start to eclipse some of the big networks. Crazy stuff, right? Look at AI. I mean, if you look at ChatGPT now compared to a year ago, year and a half ago, it's exponentially improved, okay? Not just that platform, obviously you've got all the other platforms as well, all the other AI models, and this stuff is not stopping. I mean, look at Instagram, right? Go on Instagram, look at Reels on Instagram, all of those crazy, extremely amusing AI dances and memes and things that they're creating. You know, I turn on Instagram every day and you see Donald Trump rapping, you see Melania dancing on top of a car, getting arrested. I mean, just hilarious, but very, very crazy stuff. And who would have thought even a couple of years ago that we'd be able to do that? It's fantastic and not a little bit scary for various reasons, as you will know. But this is the world that we now live in, and all of this is not happening in a vacuum over there. It's not like, oh, okay, well, there's tech. That's interesting. I think I'll read an article in the Financial Times weekend about AI and put it down and stroke my beard for a bit and then go back to my ordinary life. It's not like that, because your ordinary life is penetrated by what's happening out there, okay? Your dating life is downstream of culture, all right? And you might say culture is downstream of politics, or maybe it's the other way around now. Maybe politics is downstream of culture. But anyway, all of these things are interconnected. Okay, it's not a question of there's this thing happening over here, there's this entity over here, and so I'm just going to ignore that and sit here. And this is of huge relevance because we've already spent a couple of years really talking about how the dating marketplace has become globalized, and it has. Okay, we know how it's happened. It's because of the apps, it's because of Instagram, it's because of people reaching out in the DMs and saying to an attractive girl who lives in a small town in Serbia, oh, I'm having this party on a yacht, why didn't you come, why don't you bring your friends, and flying them out and all that sort of stuff. So we know this kind of thing's happening, but even if some of that stuff is a little bit of an internet myth, okay? Even if some of that stuff is exaggerated, and even if a lot of these women aren't actually getting on the flight and flying over to Monaco, right? And I'm sure plenty of them aren't. Nevertheless, what's happened? Well, we've seen inflation in the marketplace, right? We've seen inflation of what people think that they can achieve out there, because there seem to be limitless opportunities, okay? Particularly if you happen to be an attractive woman. Now, there are also huge opportunities for some guys as well, but the guys that applies to is a much smaller pool compared with how it's affecting women. And so, of course, expectations as far as dating is concerned have risen, all right? Of course they've risen, because now there's nowhere to hide, okay? When people on YouTube first started talking about men's dating skills, whenever it was, you know, like 10, 15 years ago, whatever, the landscape was very different, because yes, your verbal skills, yes, your riz, yes, your swagger, all of those things were important, but you've got to look at the wider context. They were working in a market where we didn't have this global interconnectivity, we didn't have, to the same degree, this sense of infinite dating opportunities, right? We didn't have, to anything like the same degree, this globalized marketplace whereby a dude in California can meet a girl in Ukraine and start dating her, and then she flies out and she goes and stays with him. I mean, this stuff, I'm sure it happened in some shape or form previously, but the digital landscape, smartphones, the apps, have facilitated this stuff and put it on steroids. So now we've got this just huge conflagration of this stuff happening. And even if, as I say, even if not everyone's engaging with it, they're aware that this is happening, okay? They are aware that their options are huge. They are aware that there are extremely high value guys out there who would make these gestures for them if they wanted it, okay? Well, how do you think that's going to affect anybody? Anybody in that situation is going to look at you with your maybe not great social skills, maybe you're not so well put together, maybe you could do with working out a little bit, whatever it is, who cares? I mean, whatever the shortfalls that you might have are, obviously, those are being compared against these higher tier individuals who are haunting the whole scene like ghosts via technology, all right? It is what it is. What are you going to do? I saw somebody in the comments recently, I was talking about something similar to this in a different video, and somebody said, oh, right, so the answer is you don't change the system, you just have to play the game. And I was like, well, yeah, exactly. Because what are you going to do, Alex Z000011222223? You're not going to change the system, right? I mean, no offense. You know, maybe it was a secret billionaire baller under an anon account, but I very, very much doubt it, okay? The reality of the matter is that most individuals are not going to change the system. You're not going to destroy the matrix, okay? And why would you bother, really? Let's be honest. I mean, it's a losing battle. But if there's a fantasy of, oh, but you know, if enough of us get together, we can all change this. It's just lunacy, okay? And it's naive, quite frankly, because I don't think there's much appetite out there to change the system, really, because the system, in inverted commas, is working very well for a lot of people, and some very, very powerful people come to that. And also there's a lot of huge amounts of money invested in the system as well. They're not going to let go of that lightly just because some anon on YouTube doesn't like it very much, sitting in his bedroom in Delaware saying, oh, things are unfair, we should overthrow the system. It's not going to fucking happen. Come on, wake up, right? So the only option you've got is to play the game, but to play the game smart, okay? That's the only option you've got. So you've got to think, all right, so this is how things are. It feels like the board is tipped against me. It feels like things are unfair. It feels like it's harder than when I was at college or university or whatever. It feels harder now. I can't quite put my finger on it, but I just sense that things aren't quite right. I sense that things aren't the same as they used to be. Well, you're right. Congratulations, you win a prize. You're right in that assessment. But then the question remains, well, all right, so what do I do about it? Okay, do I just sit here under a fake avatar on YouTube and write comments and fantasize about how everything could one day change when it isn't going to? Or do I play the game on its own terms, but do I tilt the board in my favor by doing certain things that is going to make it more likely that I'm going to get what I want? All right, I would say the latter is the correct way forward, because you don't, well, there are then two choices. You can either do that, you can then learn the skill sets, you can shape up, you can fight the system in your own way, you can enact a minor rebellion in your own life on the system by doing things differently to how we're told to do them by society. That's perfectly valid, and that's what we recommend here. Self-transcendence, okay, is essential in 2026. You can do that, or you can do nothing. And you're perfectly welcome to do nothing. I'm not forcing you to do anything. I don't have a vested interest in what you as an individual do. If you say, all right, I get all of that, but it's all a bit too much like hard work, so I'm just going to sit on the sofa. That's fine. That's fine. That is a choice. But just bear in mind that that's a choice that will inevitably see you falling further and further back as far as the dating stuff is concerned, and also I would argue other aspects of your life as well, right? We have the incursion of AI, we have jobs being slashed, right? I mean, we've seen some of that already. I suspect that it's only going to get more intense as time goes on. Are you future-proofing yourself for that, right? What preparations have you made for that eventuality? Maybe you have, great, but again, we've got to think about these things. We have to, there's something like a 1 in 400 trillion chance that any of us actually were born, right? That statistic, right? The fact that any of us are actually here on this planet inhabiting consciousness, right, is incredibly infinitesimal. And again, I mean, we have free will, right? Do what you want to do with that. You can do nothing with it if you want. I would say, though, as just for the banter, right, just for a bit of a laugh, why not go all in, right? Why not think, well, I'm here, I've got a chance, I'm kind of at ground zero anyway, because things feel very hard and they feel very unfair, so to hell with it. I'm going to burn the house down. Not literally, but I'm going to just consider my circumstances. I'm just going to go hell for leather on this. I'm going to do the things that I need to do in order to get to the place where I want to get. I mean, Alex Hormozy is very inspirational in this kind of thinking. Now, he's in the business niche, right? But the stuff that he says, you could, at a stretch, you could kind of apply to dating in the sense that he says, look, it sucks. It's really hard. It sucks. It's going to take you a long time. You might fail. But what else are you going to do? Okay? And that applies to business, but equally it applies to the dating stuff as well. If you are having troubles in this area, and I assume if you're watching this stuff, you're probably maybe not 100% happy with where you are, well, things need to change. I mean, and it's often very hard to know precisely what needs to change and in what way, unless you've got a mentor, okay? I had an exchange with somebody last week who reached out to me, and he told me that he had been watching content of this kind, and podcasts and all that kind of stuff for nearly a decade, all right, 9 years of watching this stuff. And he explained a situation that he had with this girl, and he was asking me for some advice, and it was very, very clear. Okay, it was very, very clear. I just read the thing and I was like, well, this situation is lame. This is ridiculous. You're coming at this completely the wrong angle. This doesn't display to me any understanding of these dynamics at all. So what have you been doing for the last decade, right? You say you've been watching these videos. You say you've been consuming this stuff, but you still don't get it, all right? And all due respect to him, because I'm sure he's a lovely guy, whatever, and you know, he was very nice to me in his messages, but that is suboptimal, I would venture, for your life, right? You spend 10 years watching this stuff and talking about this stuff and thinking about this stuff and posting comments and being on forums and things, but you still haven't made any material changes in your actual life. I mean, that's not what I would want for you, right? That's not what I would want for anybody. So the best way to fast track that, right, the best way to actually make some changes is to get a mentor. It doesn't have to be me, it doesn't have to be James Tusk, it could be anybody, right? But it's good to get somebody who's outside of you, who can look at your situation objectively, look at what you're doing, and tell you where it needs to be changed, okay? Because otherwise people can flounder in the dark with this stuff for years, and we don't have the luxury of time, okay? We don't have the luxury of time. The wolves are at the gates already, gentlemen. The wolves are at the gates as far as the dating thing is concerned. We are in chaos, as you can see around you, and we need to shape up. Now, the good news is that the things that we need to do are not actually that difficult, really. The things that we need to do are not that difficult. That's not to say they're easy, but they're not. We're not talking about getting a rocket to Mars. We're not talking about starting a new colony on another planet, right? It's not that hard. But there are things that it's very, very hard to see, particularly with social dynamics, because you will go into a social situation and you will do what you think are the right things. And if you're doing that consistently, and a lot of people aren't even doing that consistently, so that's the first thing. But if you are, and it's not going in your favor more often than not, over not just days, but over months, then something's going wrong. And it's extremely unlikely that you're going to be able to tell what's going wrong, okay? Because you can't see yourself from the outside. Again, this is why mentorship is so key with this stuff, right? And it can really, really take literally years off of your journey, okay? You can get to where you want to go so much more quickly. But anyway, forget all of that. It's up to you what you do. You can just sit and watch the videos and sit on your couch. That's fine. I don't mind. But as I say, if you don't take action and you would like to have some kind of success in life, some kind of success in this area, then just understand that you are falling behind, all right? Every day that you spend binging YouTube videos, every day that you spend scrolling or watching Netflix or going to the game or drinking or taking drugs and all that kind of stuff, other people are moving forward, all right? Other people are making the moves that you should be making, and they're taking your territory, okay? They're eating your lunch, right? And that's not really where you want to be, I would suggest, but I could be wrong. You let me know what you think. Put a comment below, let me know what you think, and subscribe to the channels if you haven't already. The other thing is that our Approach Accelerator course is open now. We're going to be starting in February, okay? So we've got a few spots left. It's a 10-week course. You get pre-recorded videos instructing you on all aspects of this stuff from beginning to end, all the dating stuff. We'll also be doing weekly Zoom calls, and we'll be giving you 24/7 WhatsApp support through the period as well. So if you're interested in that, drop me an email, troy@realtroyfrancis.com. The other thing is that we've got live events coming up in Rio for Rio Carnival, 13th to the 21st of February, plus in Barranquilla, Colombia, around the same time. Okay, we've got a live-in residential program. So if you're interested in that, or coaching around Europe and Latin America over the rest of the year, drop me an email again, troy@realtroyfrancis.com. In either case, put your WhatsApp details on and we can sort out a call and we can have a quick conversation about it, find out where you're at, what would be the best fit for you. All right, I hope you enjoyed this one. See you again very soon. Bye-bye.